aligned with what we were trying to do from the standpoint of the business and from the standpoint of the marketing overall. So we had a huge task. We had to fix our business. We had to do rigorous cost cutting, restore our value proposition for our clients, and really reconnect with our clients. And we had a ton of work to do. We also, in terms of our marketing, we had to align it with the business. We had to restore the credibility for marketing in the company, and that meant really putting in ways to have more accountability. It was largely what led to our test market strategy. And frankly, the most important thing we did was to align both the marketing and the advertising strategy with the business strategy and to evolve together.
Who was the Talk to Chuck campaign targeted at?
Talk to Chuck is, well, first of all, I think of it as a brand platform. So it was really designed to be something that could be executed across all of our touch points, clients and prospects, and to convey the company's approachability, the trust that people have in us, the fact that we are on the side of the individual investor, and restore those core equities. The television campaign, the advertising campaign per se, is really geared toward acquisition, toward prospects. So we're trying to be much more relevant to them, to help them see that the brand is really something that they should be considering, and also to touch on the pain points that people have working with other investment firms or with brokers in general. We really try to get very close to people as consumers and understand what it is that bothers them and make them think about Schwab in a new way.
And how difficult was it to actually sell the idea of the Talk to Chuck campaign and the budget to run it internally to the CFO and to Charles Schwab himself?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. We were at such a tipping point, if you will, in that, well, I'm probably not using that term exactly in its technical sense, but we knew we had to make dramatic change. We were slashing our prices, really rethinking what we provided to our customers, slashing our costs. Chuck was back as CEO, and we were at a point of knowing we had to change dramatically. I think that helped me, and because I was able to come in also somewhat objectively from another company and say, we have some great equities here that Chuck himself embodies, but we need to portray the brand in a fresh and relevant and compelling way. So I can honestly say that I didn't meet with much resistance from an executional standpoint. When we went to look at funding it and went into 2005 with very small marketing budgets, because we were in such a cost-cutting mode, it was a unique opportunity as a marketer to say, I have an opportunity, instead of just running a few ads and running out this little budget, to go into 3 markets and do it really well. Because we were essentially doing no prospect marketing in the rest of the country. We were on something of a starvation diet, and I knew that we'd be able to see a difference between test and control probably sooner than we might have, or certainly we could execute in a way that was much more pure and clear than in a normal test market scenario.
And what were the 2 or 3 key metrics that you were looking at in monitoring the impact in the test markets to convince management that it made sense to go national?
What we were looking at primarily are 2 key measures that involve bringing in new business to the firm. First, new assets from new households. So you'll see new to firm net new assets as a measure that we used. And also new accounts. So new accounts from new households. You see, we thought that acquisition was in fact the asset test. But in the markets, we also measured things like attrition. We saw attrition go down, retention go up. We measured new assets from existing households. We measured attitudes toward the brand. So we were looking at a lot of things, but we knew that the asset test was going to be whether this could bring new people into Schwab.
And how is it that people decide to shift money into a new brokerage account? Is that something they decide in a flash, or is there an evolutionary process to that decision? And how does that then play into the kind of metrics you need to monitor the advertising?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. We truly have gone from being a transaction-focused business, providing a low-cost trade very efficiently, eventually online, to being in the relationship business. A lot of that has been driven by the fact that investors have evolved. Investing has become more complex. People's lives have been more complex. Our core customer is a baby boomer that has more money now and is closer to retirement. All of that adds up to the fact that we have to be in the business of having a relationship that helps and guides them in the choices that they make. So the process, the shopping shopping process, if you will, is very elongated. It's no longer, run an ad and see how many trades you get or see how many calls you get. In fact, it takes people sometimes 5 or 6 weeks on average from the time they decide to switch firms to the time they open a new account. So you have to have your whole communications mix geared toward that. We do a lot of search marketing online. We work a lot with integrating Schwab.com and our messaging there with the things that we're saying in our marketing messages. But we know that people come back to our website several times before they make a decision. So every element of the marketing mix has to be geared toward helping people for whom we're right, get to Schwab eventually.
So being one of the firms that is considered or in the consideration set becomes quite critical as a metric to monitor progress.
Consideration is a key metric. It's not perfect. I mean, one of the challenges we do have is measuring purchase intent. I think a lot of businesses share that challenge. But in any considered purchase like this, you want to you need something to look at between awareness and preference, or awareness and purchase intent. And we use that, we call that consideration. And I think part of that's awareness, just getting into people's minds that you're there as an option, and part of it is breaking through and making them feel like you're relevant to their needs.
Okay, so consideration is key. How does the Schwab Talk to Chuck campaign evolve from here?
Well, we do see Talk to Chuck as a very viable platform that can go in a lot of different directions for us. One of the things that I think has really made it successful and a huge contribution to the business is that it's a platform that is very flexible. You'll see even in our B2B divisions, the brand standards reflect the look and feel of Talk to Chuck, but in a different way. We don't use the line, but we have evolved to the point where it's a branding device across the company. We're now going in a couple of different directions where we are trying to reach out to Generation X, to that generation of savers who are becoming investors, for whom we have a lot more relevant products. We're also using it more and more to create awareness of and launch new products. So we're finding that the campaign is very flexible. We do ongoing copy testing. It's very effective. And our biggest challenge, I think, going forward is to keep it fresh, to stay on top of our game, and to make sure that in this competitive environment we're spending enough, frankly, behind it.
Some people have been concerned about the linkage between Talk to Chuck and Charles Schwab himself. How would you reply to that?
Well, our intention for the campaign was very, very explicitly to take all the values and everything that Chuck stood for in terms of advocacy for the individual investor, good value, and the ethics of our company, and transfer those equities onto the company, onto the brand. And I think what we've found to date is that externally to the consumer, that is exactly what's happening. That people don't even necessarily know there's a real man named Charles Schwab. Chuck has embodied the spirit of the company. Internally, it's been very motivating to employees because Chuck himself is a critical part of that reason why people come to Schwab and stay there. We have a lot of employees that have been there for many years and that really believe that this is a better type of firm, and that we are here first and foremost to serve our clients. So it was very motivating for employees to have the reference to Chuck, but very effective for us also not to have him as an individual in the advertising.
Okay. One final question. You're the Chief Marketing Officer. What do you think the key criteria are that a CEO should use in selecting a Chief Marketing Officer?
That's a tough question, and I actually get asked that often because there's a lot of news about the fact that CMOs have such short tenure in general in their jobs these days, and that's a reflection of how volatile business is, I think. But first and foremost, I think a CMO has to view marketing as a driver for the business through the lens of the business. If we had not been so aligned, the business strategy, the marketing strategy, the brand, if I had been off in another world trying to strengthen the brand in a vacuum, I don't think we ever would have had the results that we've had today. I think, the other thing I would say is that the CMO job really, from what I can tell, and I have a lot of friends that are chief marketing officers, it varies a lot from firm to firm, the role. And I would strongly advise a CEO hiring a CMO to find somebody that they believe that they can really trust and work with and have a dialogue with, and who sees the world the way they do, or at least is in a position to challenge them appropriately. I think too often there's just not a good cultural fit. And you know, we hear a lot these days about collaborative leadership. I think that's also another critical thing for CMOs. It's something that I myself have looked at a lot, because often what you find is you're leading through influence, not necessarily authority. You're often CMOs are not in a line position, and yet you have great influence and the power to influence. So you want to find somebody that has the expertise you need in your business, and you want to find somebody you trust, and you want to find somebody that's going to have a point of view and be able to influence in that kind of an environment, but understand that it's got to be collaborative.
Becky, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.